81 podcast. We get together from time to time for conversations about the Interstate 81 Corridor Improvement Program, also known as the I-81 CIP or Improve81. It provides guidance and funding for the Virginia Department of Transportation to make dozens of enhancements to safety and traffic flow along the interstate's 325 miles in Virginia. I'm Ken Slack, Communications Coordinator for Improve81, and I'm joined today by the district engineers for all three VDOT districts along the corridor. We have Tabitha Crowder from the Bristol District, Ken King from the Salem District, and Todd Stevens from the Stanton District. First of all, thank you all for being here today.
My pleasure.
It's great to be here, Ken.
Well, in all three districts, 2023 was a pivotal year for the I-81 CIP. We saw some significant projects go under construction or go out for contractor bids or have their designs go under the spotlight at a public hearing. So let's start by going north to south. Todd, a design build contract has been awarded for the very first widening project in the Stanton District. Tell us a little bit more about it.
It has, Ken, and the contract was executed in April. It is for approximately 4 miles of additional lane widening between exit 221, which is the intersection of I-64. It'll go north up to the northern intersection of Route 262 at exit 225. And so we're going to put a third lane predominantly in the median. We'll start off with some widening on the right-hand side. We have to strengthen the shoulder in order to shift traffic. But then the barriers will be set, and then the traffic will be pretty much running outside of the construction limits while the road is being widened in the median. We've got 5 bridges to widen in order to accommodate the third lane, and we're looking forward to it. The folks here in Stanton are really anxious to get a actual widening project going here. We've done several projects up and down the Shenandoah Valley, but this will be our first widening project.
So while we're just getting started with our first widening in the Stanton District, Salem's a couple years ahead of us. Ken, we have a major project there that's well underway. So give us an update on what's happening in that Rono County and Salem area.
Absolutely, yeah, very much underway. We have the project between 137 and 141. It's a widening, an additional lane in each direction through this pretty congested area. Really meant to ease the congestion, increase capacity, and reduce crashes. The project was awarded to Archer Western. They are our design build contractor, so it's a design build arrangement. Project right at $180 million in value, so a significant size. And work began in early 2022 and is expected to complete in early 2026. So it's a lengthy project, very tight. It's a narrow section. The work includes not only the widening of the road and improving and establishing a full width shoulder, but it also is replacing 3 pairs of bridges on roadways that cross under 81, and then widening an additional bridge over US 311 on the northern end of the project. Work began on the inside median area. So the lanes have been shifted, travel lanes have been shifted to the outside, and that's the way we've been operating. We recently were able to shift the lanes on the northern portion of the job back to the inside so that work can begin on the outer edges. We anticipate before the year is out, we'll be able to shift traffic in the southern portion of the project as well. That'll allow that work to take place on the outside edges. The last section, which is in the middle, will be the work that's completed between now and the summer of 2024, at which time the rest of the work takes place all on the shoulders. And there's a lot to be done still. Both the bridges, removing the old structures, establishing shoulders, ditch line, guardrail, sound wall. So while it looks like we've got a lot accomplished in these moves, and we do, the contractor is staying on schedule, there's a lot yet to be done, and we'll certainly continue to work closely with the contractor as well as the motoring public as we shoulder the pains that come with construction, but we anticipate and look forward to all the benefits this great project will bring.
So a whole lot of moving parts are going on in Rono County and Salem, and that's what you have to look forward to in the Stanton area, right, Todd? But in both of these projects, and in general terms, when we do the widening projects, I want to make sure I point out, I think you mentioned it briefly, Todd, that we will be generally widening to the inside. What does that mean, and why do we do that?
Well, it cuts down on right-of-way impacts, which is a huge deal for us. If we can avoid right-of-way impacts, we save a lot of time, a lot of money, and disruptions to the folks that own the property in terms of their impacts. And so the less we can disrupt, the better. The quicker we can move, and the less expensive it'll be.
Excellent. Now, while the widening's been going on in Salem, a little bit further south, we have a truck climbing lane project, a pretty extensive one that I've had a chance to drive through several times and watch the progress there. But that's just the first of three. So give us an update, Tabitha, on what's going to be happening now and in 2024 as well.
We've completed 3 on-ramp extension projects in Smith County, and the first is the southbound on-ramp at exit 54, and that actually created an auxiliary lane between exit 54 and the adjacent rest area, so definitely a safer situation there. The other extension projects were the north and southbound on-ramps at exit 47 in Marion. Both of those wrapped up in the spring. The northbound side had more rock excavation, and so that one made it the most challenging one we've done to date. We began construction on one of 3 truck climbing lane projects as well in 2023, and that first one's being constructed north of exit 39 and extends about 1 mile. The third lane is being constructed behind barrier wall, so in our case to the outside, I guess, along the shoulder of the interstate, and it's anticipated to wrap up in the spring of 2024. So with Bristol's steep terrain, truck climbing lanes are of great benefit to motorists and to trucks.
Now, there's a contractor working on one of those truck climbing lanes, and I understand that the same contractor has a couple more right around the corner, so to speak.
That's right. Contracts were awarded for a northbound truck climbing lane near exit 32 in the Glade Spring area of Washington County, and southbound near mile marker 34 in Washington County, which is south of the Chilhowie area. Both projects will be approximately 1 mile in length. The projects were bundled into one contract valued at $17 million and were awarded to W&L Construction and Paving, who's working on the truck climbing lane, as you mentioned, which is near exit 39. These projects, while they've geared up, they will be completed in the fall of 2025.
Now, those aren't the only projects. You have a lot of individual projects going on in Bristol District. So what else do we have going to the construction phase in the year to come?
So the widening of southbound Interstate 81 between exits 10 and 7 was awarded in fall 2023, and construction will begin in early 2024. The project adds a third lane southbound for about 1.5 miles and a third lane northbound for approximately 1 mile. So the northbound situation, for those that are familiar with exit 7, you have the 3 lanes going to 2, as well as the northbound on-ramp merging at the same spot. And so this project will greatly enhance safety by getting rid of those pinch points there together at the same area. There's multiple significant projects beginning in Wythe County in spring of 2024. Construction is going to begin on the much anticipated Progress Park connector, and that leads into an industrial park and is funded through VDOT's Smart Scale program. The other 2 projects that are bundled with that project are Improve81 program projects. A second bundle of Wythe County projects is in the works, and it's a design build project. VDOT started doing the initial design, and we had a public hearing in this spring, and the design build team's being selected to pick that up. By the design builder being able to move ahead with those initial plans, we anticipate the work to begin later in 2024.
There's a whole lot going on in that Wytheville area, to the point that we actually are going to be doing a separate podcast and video that really highlights and gives some of the details. And at least for me, it was difficult to kind of wrap my head around what all was happening, because within just a few miles, we have 5 different projects, 4 with the 81 CIP and the Smart Scale project as well. So we wanted to give it its own spotlight. So we'll definitely be asking folks to listen for and watch for the video and podcast about that particular bundle of projects. In the meantime, we're talking with Tabitha Crowder, Ken King, and Todd Stevens, the district engineers for all 3 VDOT districts along the I-81 corridor in Virginia. Now, Ken, we're going to be swinging a little bit further north, so we're going to be back to you on this one. The biggest single project in the CIP is in the Salem district. It's the widening of I-81 between Roanoke and Troutville. the public got its first close look at that project in the fall of 2023.
Indeed, we just had our public hearing and had a good crowd of folks come out to what is a really, really important project and very large, as you mentioned. The project, valued at $479 million, will be the largest project the Salem District's had since really the construction of the interstate system itself. So widening of 7 miles, so an additional lane in each direction to address both the capacity and safety improvements similar to the project we talked about earlier. It involves replacing 8 bridge structures and installing about 8,500 feet of sound walls. So there's a lot going on here. A significant part of this project is the fact that we've got concrete pavement sections that are underneath the asphalt you see there today when you get into Botetourt County. So a big part of this project is not just widening, but it's also reconstructing. So those old pavement sections will be busted up. We call it rubbleizing, and it'll create a good aggregate foundation upon which a pavement structure will be built off of. So the design builder will have a lot of work to do to identify their method and means and approach to that work and the scheduling. But it will make for a very long life and durable pavement well into the future. In addition, there's significant amount of work going on at the interchange in Troutville, where alternate 220 leaves. Those that travel this today, when you're traveling southbound on Interstate 81 and you're exiting to go on to 220 south, you go over the bridge deck that's over 220, and then you take a ramp that loops you around to the right, and then you flow onto the lanes that carry south. We're going to change that, so you'll come off the right on Interstate 81. Before you cross over 220, you'll come down to a traffic signal at US 220 opposite Tinker Mountain Road, which is where the small park and ride lot is there today. You'll have a traffic signal that'll allow you to make that left-hand turn to get onto 220 and continue south. In addition to replacing the structure, increasing the vertical clearance there's also ramp configuration changes that both will improve the safety and the operation of that interchange. So the start of the procurement process actually began earlier here in the fall when we issued the request for qualifications, which is the start of the design build kind of procurement process. But what most people see when you actually have major construction taking place within the roadway lanes and footprint, that'll likely be in 2025, because one of the first things this team has to do, of course, is to advance the design, come up with their plan and their approach to a number of these pieces. But we'll have the designer and the builder working hand in hand to come up with what I'm sure will be a good executable project for the benefit of the Commonwealth.
Well, there's certainly a lot going on with that project, and not just the widening, but the bridge replacements and reconfiguring interchanges. And what was the engineering term? Busting up or rubbleizing?
Rubbleize,
I like that.
yeah.
I can understand that. I can picture that as a non-engineer, so I appreciate that. There's also a lot going on in the Stanton area as we transition back further north to Todd. The Stanton area widening is going to be sharing some construction space, I guess.
Yeah, really, really tight, because there's another project that we received bids in September on, and it's really going to look like that it's all one project, because this auxiliary lane project, which is between exit 220 and 221 on the southbound side, almost connects with the widening project that's just north of there. And so the folks that are traveling on 64 and going south on I-81 right now are having to merge to get past a structure, the Barterbrook Road structure. And so this project is going to remove and replace the Barterbrook Road structure. It will allow the lane, the acceleration lane from I-64 to be connected with the deceleration lane for Route 262. And we have a lot of commuters that are coming from the Charlottesville side of the mountain and coming into Stanton in the evenings. And right now they have to merge and then immediately get back into the deceleration lane. And so when you eliminate that movement, it's going to make it a lot easier for the folks that are traveling south on I-81 and not have to deal with that in and out movement.
Now, as we go into 2024, certainly a big part of that project is replacement of that bridge. And because Barterbrook Road is going to be closed during that time, we're doing that as quickly as possible, because that is an inconvenience.
Absolutely. We're hoping to only have that road closed down for 18 months at the most. And so we're looking to deliver that project much quicker than the widening project that's going to go all the way out into 2027. So yes, we're going to look to expedite that work very much so.
Now, you mentioning those two side-by-side work zones reminds me that I've got another commercial to do here. We have a video and podcast that we're also going to be doing that will focus on these the work zones that are right next to each other. We see several of them back to back in the Stanton, Salem, and Bristol districts, and we want to make sure they're as consistent as possible so that folks don't have any surprises as they're going through. But again, still not finished in Stanton. We've got 2024 is bringing a couple more projects that we're going to be advertising.
We're looking to start at least the procurement process of the Weirs Cave project, which is both a north and southbound lane widening that was just north of the 235 interchange. It's a pretty substantial grade difference where they go down into a hole, cross a bridge, and go up. And so it's basically a truck climbing lane we spoke about earlier, and that if we can keep the trucks separated from the other two lanes, then we find that the traffic flows much better. Also, we're way up north, close to the 300 interchange. We have a project right now that's a smart scale project that's extending the acceleration lane for I-66 to I-81 southbound. And we're looking for that project to finish up about the same time as we start advertising for the lane widening project or the addition project that'll take it all the way down to mile marker 296.
And one thing I wanted to point out also is Tabitha was talking about the truck climbing lanes in Bristol, and we've got them coming up soon in Weirs Cave. And one thing I noticed from the construction zone at the current truck climbing lane project is that it continues past the crest of the hill. I mean, it's obvious that this goes on for a good 1,000 feet or so. And big point of that is to make sure that trucks can get up to speed, up to that full interstate speed, and blend back in with traffic before the truck climbing lane ends. So to quickly summarize, we have a whole bunch of projects along this 325-mile corridor. We have, current construction that's just getting underway to widen in the Stanton area, another auxiliary lane that's going in the Stanton area. In 2024, we'll be advertising for a truck climbing lane near Weirs Cave, yet another widening in the Strasburg area. Going further south to Salem, we have a widening in Rono County and Salem area between exits 137 and 141. And also, the public got its first look and first chance to offer some feedback on the biggest project in the whole corridor improvement program. That's the widening from 143 to about 150. So big projects there in the Salem area, and a whole bunch of them in the Wytheville area as we move south to the Bristol district. 5 different projects in the Wytheville area, 4 of them that are part of the I-81 CIP, as well as a smart scale project that will help with some industrial access and development in that area. And then moving further south, we've got 3 different truck climbing lane projects, 1 under construction, 2 that'll be joining very soon. And then bringing up the rear, we've got the widening in the Bristol area between exits 7 and 10. So a whole lot happening up and down the corridor in 2023 and 2024. So Todd Stevens, Ken King, and Tabitha Crowder, thank you all very much for joining us today and sharing what's happening in your districts. And I also want to thank the listeners of this Improve81 podcast. VDOT now has more than 20 podcasts and more than 20 videos as well. They all come together to help tell the story about what's happening along the I-81 corridor now and for many years to come. So check out our videos and podcasts, as well as quarterly newsletters, an interactive map, and a whole lot more resources at improve81.org. And as always, we wish you safe travels.